So it all came to a head for me when my best friend from college, who was a 40-year-old single woman, yeah, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And when she was the most vibrant, joyful, loving, like beautiful friend that I'd ever had. And when she got sick, it did a couple things. It woke me up. We all know people that died, but for some reason, she was my first young, it wasn't a grandparent. It wasn't a great grandparent. It was a young, beautiful, vibrant friend that I adored. That was such a gift to this world. And so when she got sick, I realized how fleeting life was, that it could happen to anyone if it could happen to her. And as she was going through chemo, as she was going through radiation, I became grateful on another level. I wasn't writing down what I was grateful for, but every day in my head, I knew Tracy's driving herself to chemo. She had a baby. The father of the baby left her when she got pregnant. They had been together for a year. They were madly in love. He left her. So here she is, not only a single mom, which is hard, but a single mom with cancer. And so that level of gratitude, like when my husband and I would argue, I would immediately think, how lucky am I to have a husband to argue with? Tracy doesn't have that. Everything for me, that gratitude started with her.
Hi, everyone. It's Pastor Tom again here at the 24 Today podcast. Thank you so much for being my guest today. Thank you for all of the likes, all of the ways that you are helping this podcast to reach other people, subscribing, thumbs up. I see the podcast growing every week, and I know that you are a part of that. Today, I am privileged to have with me Amy Perkins. I first became aware of Amy through LinkedIn, if you're familiar with that. And she had this amazing 3-minute-ish talk on gratitude that was there. And actually, I look at LinkedIn a lot now and see the other talks that she gives, and they're always good. But I was really captivated with Amy as she was talking about gratitude, really pulled me into the subject. And I was thinking, here's somebody who really understands gratitude. And I'm guessing that she really has a personal reason to understand that because it's so heartfelt. So I wanted to have her on the show today. And this episode title is called Amy Perkins Is Grateful. Amy, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. That's a great title.
Thank you. It is great to have you. So, Amy, tell us a little bit of what you do for a living, your family, etc.
So what I do for a living has radically changed in the last year. For 25 years, I had worked in education. I was an elementary school teacher for 9 years, and then I was a coach and a consultant for the County Office of Education.
Okay.
And I made the decision to quit after I had seen some things going on with the leaders that just wasn't aligning with my values, and I didn't see integrity in leadership. And there were things leading up to that, but I made the really difficult decision to quit. And I took a leap of faith.
Sure, yeah.
A huge leap of faith.
Right.
But I knew in my heart that something else was going to work out, and it absolutely has. So that's my career background. I'm a mom of 2 kids, been married for 19 years this summer, and my daughter's going to be 16 on Monday, and my son's 10.
Wow. And on your, just kind of the ways that you describe yourself, you are what you call a Chief Dreaming Officer. And
Yes.
Is that actually an official title?
I gave it to myself, yes.
Okay, but I didn't know, like, if you were connected with a company or something, and that was so, but that's what, yeah. And you also call yourself, and I like this too, a kindness enthusiast.
Yes.
Great titles. You are the founder of Keys to Courage. What is that?
So 2 years ago, I was still working in my job in education, but I had just something inside me. I wanted to do more. I wanted more than what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And what I thought at the time that more was to start a business. when I was getting ready to start that business, I knew I needed to meet with a woman in business that I had admired to get some advice from. And that woman was my kid's pediatric dentist. I was really nervous. I was a totally different version of me then than you see now. I pushed through fear and reached out to her on Facebook to ask her for 5 minutes of her time to meet. And she was very generous and said, let's go grab coffee. And so after our 2-hour coffee date, and I had explained my business, and she loved it and was super encouraging. And she had a necklace on, and it was engraved with the word believe. And she asked me if I had heard of the giving keys, and I hadn't. And she said, there are these keys that are engraved with words, and when you're done with your word, you pass it on to someone that needs it more than you do.
Wow.
And we both teared up. I mean, it was this moment, like it was a magical moment. And I took that key engraved with the word believe, and every step of that way, starting that business that I did, I started building self-trust, and I started annihilating my self-doubt, those limiting beliefs that I had had. And from there, because of that key, when I started my company, I named it Keys to Courage.
Okay. Well, for someone that struggled with self-doubt, that was a pretty brave move that you made to leave education, I mean, a real stable job, and then launch off into a new career. That's pretty bold.
It had been a year of taking daily action.
Okay.
And that all stemmed from the death of my best friend from college.
Yeah. And actually, you know, on that video that I saw of gratitude, you had mentioned that, and I know that is where so much of your personal conviction comes from, the idea of gratitude. And I want to ask you about that in just a moment. Let me ask you first some seemingly random, maybe are random questions, but the questions that I'm just curious about because you believe in gratitude so much. So let me ask you a few questions about gratitude, and then I'm going to jump into that one, you know, more about yourself. A life coach that you actually have been connected with personally is Mel Robbins. And so I was I think the first time that I saw her was on her TED Talk. And during that TED Talk, she gives this staggering statistic, and it is that we have approximately about a 1 in 400 trillion chance of even being born into this life. 1 in 400 trillion. And so then I'm thinking of, you know, how amazing that is that we even have life, that we're even here. And then in connection with this idea of being grateful, then I wonder, how is it that we struggle so much with gratitude when we are so fortunate to even be here? Do you have any thoughts on that? That's kind of a general question, I know, to start off with, but do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, thinking back to this other version of me before the way I am now at this level of gratitude that I have, I think it's just the outside noise and getting so busy. And we're so busy and caught up in our day-to-day and going through the motions that it's really easy to lose sight of how much we have to be grateful for.
So it's not so I'm going to ask you another question, and you say busy. Is it a ingratitude, or is it just strictly? Is it more that we're just so busy that we don't really think about it? And then I'm even going to throw in the word entitlement. Do we sometimes feel entitled? Is that part of it, or is it really just more that most of us are grateful for what we have, but we really just don't stop and think about it?
Honestly, all I can speak to is this personal transformation and growth that I've had with myself. And I remember being a kid and watching Oprah with my mom, and Oprah was talking about, you know, starting a gratitude journal, and I tried, and it was hard for me to find things that I was grateful for. I mean, it was like food, shelter, my family. I just kept doing those. And so I stopped that gratitude journal. And it's ironic because now I don't write a gratitude journal, but I have this other depth of gratitude on a whole other level because of an experience that I went through. So I just think it's different for everyone. I don't know that I felt entitled. For me, I was definitely in that victim mentality for a long time, things happening to me and that person's mean and that happened. And now I can look at all of those things and I'm grateful for every single thing that at the time I complained about, because rejection is a gift, failure is a gift. But if your mind isn't framed that way, you just don't see it that way.
Yeah. Amy, you, in that talk that I heard, you said this, I'm going to quote you. You said, if you complain about little things, you aren't grateful.
That's how I feel. And I know it makes a lot of people upset. I don't know if you know this, but I get a lot. My videos are all positivity and inspiring, and I get mean comments.
I saw one of your videos where someone was commenting on your clothing or your.
Oh, yeah.
Like, come on.
Everything. Yeah. All the time. I've been called a bimbo, and I wear t-shirts. My shirt today says grateful. I wear inspirational t-shirts. There are just a lot of hurt people out there. Mm-hmm. And I think, that's another topic that I was scared to death to put my first video out, which was about 1.5 years ago. And I was scared about getting just annihilated in comments on my appearance. And it's a real fear because there are a lot of mean people out there. But now it bounces off of me because I see it, like when those comments come in that are mean, name calling, not constructive criticism, not feedback. Sure. Those people are hurting. And if your first instinct when you see someone like pouring their heart out on video, being brave enough to show up, and the first thing you want to do is attack them, that's an inside hurt. And I see that now. And there's a lot of people walking around and it's like, they're hurt. And I see that. I feel like I have the superpower now.
And the superpower is what? Gratitude?
Well, one of them, I can just see hurt people. They're everywhere, and they're the ones that are miserable and grumpy and mean. And I mean, I saw it in my job, my old job. I see it now. It's just, I just want to say, I see you and I see that you're hurting. Yeah.
So it says more about the critic. In fact, when I was, watching that one where you were talking about someone criticizing you that way, and I'm thinking, Amy, it's more about that person than it is you.
Yeah.
All right. So we've kind of referred to it a few times. Just we've touched on it, but can you tell me now about your own life and just why it is that you have had this great desire and passion to talk about gratefulness and to feel grateful? What was it? What are some of the things that happened that really caused you to think more about this than you had before?
So it all came to a head for me when my best friend from college, who was a 40-year-old single woman. Yeah, she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And when she was the most vibrant, joyful, loving, beautiful friend that I'd ever had. And when she got sick, it did a couple things. It woke me up. We all know people that died, but for some reason, she was my first it wasn't a grandparent. It wasn't a great grandparent. It was a young, beautiful, vibrant friend that I adored. That was such a gift to this world. And so when she got sick, I realized how fleeting life was, that it could happen to anyone if it could happen to her. Right. And as she was going through chemo, as she was going through radiation, I became grateful on another level. I wasn't writing down what I was grateful for, but every day in my head, I knew Tracy's driving herself to chemo. She had a baby. The father of the baby left her when she got pregnant. They had been together for 1 year. They were madly in love. He left her. So here she is, not only a single mom, which is hard, but a single mom with cancer. And so that level of gratitude, like when my husband and I would argue, I would immediately think, How lucky am I to have a husband to argue with? Tracy doesn't have that. Right. Everything for me, that gratitude started with her. Every time I worked out, I was like, I'm so grateful for this body that I have, that so many women think about the things they don't like about themselves. And I was just grateful for my body that could work because I could work out.
Sure.
I was so grateful that I could sleep at night without pain because she couldn't. And that is where that whole thing flipped for me.
Was she grateful throughout all that? I mean, did she?
She was, and she passed away after battling and fighting. She never complained. It's like she was, and that's why it's so hard for me to be around people that complain about little things, because here this woman that had everything to complain about. She had the father of her baby leave her, abandon her. She had this horrible disease ravaging her body, and she never once complained.
And you really made it a life goal then to say, you know, with everything I have for the rest of my life, I'm going to honor her life.
Absolutely.
By showing her gratitude to other people.
And living the most amazing life that I could the days that I have left. And that part that went into me quitting my job. I mean, when she died, I made a promise to her that I was going to live the most amazing life that I could for both of us. And I was going to get uncomfortable, and I was going to get out of my comfort zone. I was going to do things that scared me. I was going to do whatever I could to live an amazing life, because she couldn't, but I could.
Did you literally have that conversation with her, or was it just an understood thing?
It was like I didn't say it out loud to her, but I would pray about it and just like send that message to her. And every day, I mean, she is my angel. She's by my side every day. Her mom is in my life. Her little boy is in my life. I'm so blessed. And it's a total miraculous thing. I say this, I write it. She lost her life and she saved my life.
Wow. That is, that's very powerful. I mean, so when you talk about needing to get out of where you were at and change your life, it wasn't just because you just didn't like what was going on. I mean, it was really to save someone's life. I mean, it's more than just being unhappy in your position at work.
Oh yeah.
You were feeling that somehow you're going to crash or something if you keep going this way. I mean,
just going through the motions. So many of us, I think, just go through the motions. I was, a mom of 2 and getting up and getting the kids lunches and going to work. And it was just going through the motions, that busyness. And I needed to get uncomfortable. I mean, I think so many of us stay comfortable, but we aren't really full of joy and happiness and living out our purpose. That thing when our personality matches what we're meant to do in our soul.
Right.
I had that in my 20s when I was teaching. I had purpose. I had a very specific purpose. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. Those kids were my kids. I felt fulfilled. And then as I went through and had my own kids and I was doing consulting and part-time this, and I kind of lost my purpose, I felt. And not that being a mom isn't a purpose. For some people, that absolutely is all they need. But for me, I needed more.
So comfort isn't necessarily joy. It doesn't mean joy.
Not for me.
You found comfort in you found joy in doing uncomfortable things.
And that really stemmed from, I found after Tracy passed away, Mel Robbins' 5-second rule book.
Yeah, right.
That book. And that book was the first book that really changed my life. And if there's anybody listening that has that fear that holds them back from taking steps they need to take. That 5-second rule, Mel Robbins does all this research that when we have an impulse to act on something, like whatever that may be, we have 5 seconds to act. And if we don't act, we won't do it. And I needed that rule to get out of my way. I was literally living this life of fear. I was scared of everything. I mean, the stupidest things, like going up to someone and asking them a question. So I started implementing that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You count backwards in your head and then you move. And at the time I needed that tool. I used it like 20 times a day. And the more things you do to get uncomfortable, the more things you do that are scary, the more courage you gain, the more self-trust you gain, the more confidence you gain. And I went from somebody that was scared to go up to the owner of a business to ask them a question to, I mean, I'm speaking at a conference on Sunday for International Women's Day in front of 300 people in Napa at the Culinary Institute of America. I mean, I've literally transformed my entire life by getting out of my own way.
Sure. And the whole thought of counting backwards is it creates this like launch sequence, as opposed to by nature, we count up, we count forward, and then we end up talking ourselves out of whatever it is we really need to do. Because by nature, she says that our brain kind of wants us to play it safe, right? So you're saying I had to learn to quit constantly playing it safe.
Yeah, and I had to embrace failure. My parents are amazing. They're still married. They had their 50th anniversary last year, but they didn't raise me thinking that failing was a good thing. So I played it safe my entire life. I took jobs that I knew I could get. I did things that I knew I could achieve, and I never really tried to do anything remarkable because in my mind, failing wasn't a good thing. Now I know that the magic is in failing. My daughter, who's going to be 16, I have it on her whiteboard. It says, if you aren't failing, you aren't trying hard enough. That was a huge game changer for me. And that was another thing that I've embraced wholeheartedly and has really changed my life, embracing failure.
And I want to talk to you more, some more personal questions about, do you choose, do you have ongoing situations in your life that you have to choose? Now, I'm going to be grateful. I'll talk to you more about some of those things and as we continue. But first, let me have you talk a little bit about keystocourage.com, your website.
And that all started because as I was making these changes in my life, doing those things that scared me, using that 5-second rule, living on this depth of gratitude to where I stopped complaining about the little things. I was sharing this with all these people in my life, my friends, my family, and then they were implementing things and making changes in their lives. And I thought, I need to get this out to more people. So I made a video about Mel Robbins' 5-second rule and how that changed my life. And I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to do it at all. I would rather have crawled in a hole, but I didn't have a blog. I didn't know how to do a podcast, but I could record a video on my phone.
Right.
And my 9-year-old son had some things on YouTube, so I knew he could put it on YouTube. And I figured if one person that I don't know can see this and hear how this book and this rule helped me, it's worth putting myself out there. So I first, before the website, uploaded a video to YouTube. Scared to death. I wanted to puke. My son uploaded it and it started getting 100 views, 200 views, 500 views. I think it's at 19,000 views.
Oh, wow.
This silly little video that I uploaded in my backyard after I worked out at the gym. But it was this pull to share. It wasn't a pull to want to be on video. The blog started, thekeystocourage.com, because I thought I need to organize this. I've got a story to tell, all of these miraculous things that were happening as I was pushing through fear, as I was embracing like this new belief in myself. I think self-trust and self-love, like if we can get that, we become unstoppable. And so I wanted to start sharing that on a blog, and I started keystocourage.com.
Right.
Yeah, I have a free newsletter that goes out every week, and it's just all the steps I've taken. Every week there's a step I've taken, an action that someone else can take to do exactly what I've done, to get out of my own way.
You have a course that you've done called Design Your Dream Life.
I do. And I created it because it's what I did to get started. One of the things that I did after Tracy passed away, I have a really wonderful core group of friends in my life, but I'm also a believer that you can always have more. And I really wanted like a specific type of friend. Like I described this dream friend in crazy detail. I designed this friend. And the miracle that happened was that woman that I went to coffee with, my kid's pediatric dentist that gave me that key, she's that friend. We're now best friends. Wow. We travel cross country together. Wow. It's an amazing story. It's all on my website. I now am a business consultant and coach for her multiple 7-figure dental practice. So I created this course, Design Your Dream Life, because I did it. I designed my dream life, and I have a workbook and I have a video series, and it talks about like those first steps I did to get really intentional about living the life that I wanted to live.
So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you did it, and you keep doing that
every
day, right? You have to keep
yes.
You have to keep counting backwards and stepping out there. I want to back up just briefly. I had a couple questions that came up while you were talking. And the first one, what were those little things that you were ungrateful for before that you had to?
Well, I mean, everything. Again, like my kids. Okay. Now, you know, even when they argue, I don't get frustrated. Because I'm just grateful that I have kids. And that it's like, again, all these miracles keep unfolding. Tracy passed away. That she was my beginning of gratitude. After I quit my job, I actually posted a video about why I quit my job. And a woman saw that video and reached out to someone that knew me and said they wanted to meet me. And this woman is so amazing. She's a dear friend now. She has ALS. She used to be a principal, and now she's wheelchair bound. She can't do anything for herself. She's losing the ability to talk. She's writing a book right now with her eyes. And her name is Shelly. And she was this gift for me because it was almost that reminder of gratitude. So now I have Tracy that instilled that gratitude. And I have my friend Shelly. And then in November, our dear friends, their daughter was a freshman at Pepperdine, and she was out at college night, and she was at the borderline bar where that murderer came in and he murdered her. My friend's daughter, 18 years old, was murdered in November. And all of these things just remind me everything is a gift. Our kids are a gift. Our health is a gift. And I think so many people lose sight of that. And when you find that depth of gratitude that I have, I mean, I'm just living this joyful life every single day, for what I have, not for what I want. I don't need anything. We all have everything we need if we can just truly get to that place of being grateful.
The other question I had for you, Amy, was what were the circumstances that it ends up that Tracy's child that you have connection with now, how did that happen?
Again, it's another God thing because Tracy, she lived across the country from me. I'm in California, she was in Tennessee. And when she was pregnant and I knew she was gonna not have help, I had planned I was gonna fly out. So when she had her little boy, I think he was a couple weeks old. I flew out to stay with her for a week because all moms know that's like a really, really hard time. And so I was in his life from day one. When she got sick her second time, her parents lived about an hour and a half from me, and they moved her in with them. And I would see her, we were living out of state at the time, so I didn't get to see her that often, but we talked on the phone all the time, multiple times a week. She would take him on walks, and we would have hour-long conversations on the phone. And after she passed away, like ironically, her parents ended up moving a half an hour from us. So when they did, I just told her mom, who was broken, this poor woman, saw her daughter wither away and now is raising her grandson. I just started showing up. And I wasn't even that close to her mom because, we lived in all different areas. But I just kept showing up, and I said, can I come help you? You can do laundry, do whatever you need to do. I'll play with him to give you a break. This is when he was like 2.5. And at first, some people don't want help. And she was like, no, it's okay. And I just kept showing up. I just kept offering. And I just kept saying, let me help you. Let me come. So eventually she did. And I ended up coming. And then she started reaching out and saying, we'd love to have you back. Bo had a great time. And then she'd reach out again. And so it got to be, I would come once a week. Well, I have my own kids too, so it was hard because I could only stay like 3 or 4 hours. So I said, hey, if you bring him to us, we can have him like a full day. And then you can go to a movie, you can go to lunch, do whatever. So now we get him one day a weekend, usually like a Saturday or a Sunday. And my kids, he's been a gift to our family, for my kids to get that understanding and that empathy. I talk to them a lot about he doesn't have a mom or a dad. Like, how lucky are you? Even though sometimes we drive you nuts, like you're really lucky. So it's just been a gift all around to have him in our life. And her mom and I are really close. And all the time she says that, Tracy brought me into her life and that I've been such a gift to her.
What it would mean to Tracy that, that
she knows. I know she knows.
You're able to teach her child what she taught you.
Yep.
And to daily be involved. Wow, that's powerful. This is the 24 Today podcast, and I am Pastor Tom. And again, just really grateful to have you here with us. And you can find out more from me at 24today.org. And again, my guest is Amy Perkins, and you can find her at the website keystocourage.com. She has a blog. She is on LinkedIn, Facebook as well, right, Amy?
I have a YouTube channel. Facebook's just my personal Facebook, but I have a YouTube channel.
You do have a YouTube channel with lots of videos, and so you can find her there. Are you on Twitter? Also,
no. Okay. Instagram at Keys to Courage.
Instagram, okay, at Keys to Courage. So, are there things that you have to, ongoing situations in your life that you have to remind yourself of what you've learned from Tracy, and I need to be grateful for this? But are there some things that they're extra challenging for you?
At this point, honestly, no.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that it's just so ingrained in me now. Sure, things pop up and it's like I flip it around real quick. Again, yes, my husband and I argue, and my kids, my 15-year-old rolls her eyes at me, and I don't, what I would have done in the past, let that derail me, get frustrated. I mean, it diffuses, like I might get frustrated and then it's like gone. It's a gift. If everybody can get to just being grateful to be alive and realize that their life is a gift, life becomes so amazing.
Sure. I mean, this is so small compared to what you're talking about, but I took the car to the mechanic today, and ends up being hundreds of dollars that I wasn't counting on. But yet, I'm grateful to have a car.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so if you catch it quick enough and do that little turnaround in your thinking, then it really puts things in perspective. And so that's what you're saying. Things don't get so big now because you catch it quick and you just say, yeah, but I am grateful because of this. So any specific ways that you try to teach your children gratitude?
Honestly, just I'm walking this walk right now, and my kids are absorbing it all. It's so powerful to see. I don't think as parents, what I did try to do was teach and tell for a lot of years. But now that I'm living and showing and doing, they're getting it. And that's, an advice I would give to parents. My daughter, I went to go see Mel Robbins speak, and I had a journal, and I wanted her to decorate the back of the journal. And she's an artist, and I just wanted her to express, like, what are you seeing me wanting to teach you by these things that I'm doing? And she blew me away with what she decorated this journal with, about believing in yourself and pushing through fear. And I mean, they're getting it. They get it. If tomorrow was my last day, if I was diagnosed with cancer tomorrow, my kids are good. Like, they have those tools they need that I didn't get until my 40s to live an incredible life.
I am going to give you 3 statements and give you the choice of, you can either touch on each one of those, or if you just kind of want to park for a few minutes on one of them and talk more. So here are the statements. First, forgiveness is an expression of gratitude. Secondly, volunteerism is an expression of gratitude. And thirdly, generosity is an expression of gratitude. What do you want to do with those?
So I think generosity is something that I definitely embrace. I think more people need to give than to take and to ask. And you can give generously in so many ways that don't cost a darn thing. The way that I even created this job for myself, that I'm doing consulting and coaching at this pediatric dental practice, I just started adding value to this owner, and I would give her ideas to try. And I just kept, not because I wanted anything, I didn't want a job. I just saw things and I thought, hey, why don't you try this and try this? And she was seeing all these results. So just by being generous, I ended up creating another job for myself. And if you are generous and you just come from that place and you're not looking for something in return, amazing opportunities open up, and you're, just doing something good.
Sure. And you feel good. I mean, it is proven when you do good things for people, you get this, I forget what the volunteer, there's something that truly is like, it gives you like a shot of endorphins or something, you really do feel much better about everything.
Yeah.
Amy, before I just asked you a few more questions, anything else you want to tell me about your website or your Design Your Dream Life? Or you mentioned that you have a 50% off code.
Yeah, I do. So again, back when I was just starting to take these steps to change my life, I designed my dream life. I wrote down what type of friends I wanted in my life. I got really intentional about how I wanted my marriage to look, and my relationship with my kids, and my career. And every single thing that I wrote down ended up happening. But it was a process. And so I created a workbook and a video series and put it together in a bundle. And I have a 50% off code. That's Believe. Okay. So if you do go to my website and you go to courses, if you type that in, I think with a half off, it's like $29.
Okay.
And I created that because that was the first tool that I used for myself. to get to where I am today. And ironically, I do have a master's degree in curriculum and design from my prior life. So creating that was really fun, and I hope that it's useful to the people that have purchased it.
Great. I want you to finish this statement for me, and then finally I'll just ask you, is there a final thought or challenge that you might have for listeners today? So here's the statement. I was never more grateful than when.
I would say then when Tracy was sick. When she was sick, I became grateful for things that we all take for granted. The ability to walk pain-free, to eat whatever I wanted to eat, and it wasn't going to affect my body in a negative way. I was never more grateful than when she got sick.
What would be a thought or a challenge that you have to someone who is kind of overwhelmed with life and they need to reframe what they're going through?
So I had been there, overwhelmed and kind of in a negative place. And I think there's a really good quote that Mel Robbins has. And I use this quote and I remember it. And eventually it sunk in so much. And it's just such a powerful tool. And she says, if you have a problem that can be solved with action, you don't have a problem. And I think a lot of people have problems that they feel are unsolvable. And unless you have a terminal illness, there's pretty much other things can be solved, but you have to take action. And you have to do the things you don't want to do to get where you want to be.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? Count backwards and
go. And then you won't need it anymore. I don't even need that anymore. I just go. I'm just like an actionist all day.
Amy, thank you so much for being with me here today. Again, your website is keystocourage.com, and you are Amy Perkins, Perkins. Amy is AMY, and it's been just a joy. I knew that I would enjoy talking to you when I saw that post that you had on gratitude. So I encourage people to go to your site, and also LinkedIn, or also your YouTube channel has lots of videos that they can see of different topics from you. So thank you again for being my guest today. It's been a real joy and honor to have you.
Thank you so much.
And we remember Tracy today and what she taught you in your life, and she is through her life, she's really spreading this whole thought of gratitude in her life with others. So listeners, remember that there's still time left in this 24-hour period to live life today. I'd like to thank a friend of mine, Kendra Dahlstrom, for sponsoring this episode. Kendra and I provide content for a free Facebook group, which you are invited to join. Just go to Facebook, look for the Groups tab on the left, search for Live Into Your Calling Membership Group, and ask to join. That's it. You can also find Kendra at kendradahlstrom.com. That's KendraDahlstrom.com. If this podcast has been helpful for you and you haven't already subscribed, just go to the subscribe button that you'll see on the page and subscribe. That way you'll make sure that you get everything that I put on the podcast the moment that it's available. And if it's helpful for you, it probably would be helpful for someone that you know as well. If you could send them a link or tell them about the podcast, and then also comment on the particular podcast wherever you're at. Rate it, if you will, and that will help others to be able to see and hear about the podcast.